And we're live. All right. It must be Wednesday night, people, because it is the stream by the Crossroads. And we are doing our Game of Thrones reread. Right now we are on Game of Thrones, and this is Sporky News Podcast. My name is Scott, and we'll go around and introduce everybody. We have Lady Tauriel below me, our guest. Not really a guest anymore. She's pretty much, if she wants to be on Wednesday night, she's on Wednesday night. How are you tonight?
Just fine, sir. Thank you for having me on.
Of course. You just told us backstage you were on just starting book 3, correct?
Yes.
That is
just
amazing.
Starting it.
So for everyone in the chat, you guys are pretty much our regulars, but if you can remember, we are trying to do non-spoiler. We really are trying to do like non-spoiler we say past the book we're on, but really we've been doing pretty good with past the chapter we're on. So if you guys can remember that in the chat, we'll appreciate it. And thank you for coming tonight. Yep.
If you don't remember, we'll kill you.
Straight up. A Viking will show up to your house. It will happen. I'm telling you that. And next is one of my personal favorite co-hosts, Jayne Theory. How are you?
Hey guys, I'm doing great. How are you?
I am fantastic. Ready to talk about Game of Thrones.
Yes.
I don't know. I get psyched. I'm like, I love talking about this stuff.
So do I.
And I keep thinking like, oh, this chapter isn't that good. But we end up talking for like an hour on a chapter. And these 3 chapters we're doing tonight are unbelievable.
It's like every chapter's great.
It really is. It really is. George is a master. He's a master. And thank you for coming tonight, Jayne. And next to Jayne, we have the one and only Stannis Baratheon.
Lord of Dragonstone, Master of Ships, King of Westeros, Lord of Storm's End, King of the Andals, the Rhoynar, and the First Men, Lord of the Seven Kingdoms, and Protector of the Realm. All who deny that are my foes. Let no man claim ignorance as a defense. They'll bend the knee or I'll destroy them. Isn't that right, Sir Davos?
Oh yeah, you're hard. I can't do a Davos. I gotta remember to listen to him, but it's great every time I hear that. I gotta practice. Davos has a great voice in the show, so I definitely have to practice that.
He does.
He really does. So we're gonna start in a minute, but let's first see who we got in the chat because I know people will be rolling in. If you guys can, make sure you like, and if you can share. If you haven't subscribed, that would help too. First, who's been first on most of my streams in the last few weeks is Tina. She says, good evening, friends. Tina. Then one of the most iconic names we have come across, Brutal Morningwood. Oops. Is it time to chime in? I'm kind of new at this being a civilized human being thing. Well, you don't have to be that civil with us. Just don't spoil. That's all we ask. McKinney90, good afternoon, guys.
McKinney.
Yeah, McKinney in the house. And is there anybody else yet speaking? Smooth Jam, California.
Smooth Jam.
What is dead may never die. How's the rest go? But rise. What is dead may never die, but rise something, right? Jayne, somebody? What do the Ironmen say right there?
Rise is stronger.
What is dead may never die, but rises again harder and stronger.
There we go.
Not unlike Brutal Morningwood.
Like, yes, Brutal Morningwood knows that one perfectly. Thank you for coming out, my buddy. I was about to say, where's Adam Price? There he is. He is present. Thank you, Adam. One of my favorite, like last week, you guys weren't here, or Monday, and we kind of asked how people found us. Adam just found us because he was like looking for something on Game of Thrones, I think, and it showed my show was live one week, and that's how he started following us. So that's pretty cool. I enjoy that type of stuff. So I'm just going to do a couple announcements. One of the announcements is this Saturday, where I've been doing news dumps. I won't be doing one Saturday, July 25th. I have a wedding to go to, so you know how that is. So we will hold off to the following week to do a news dump, but we'll be back Monday for our Winds of Winter prediction. And then again, Wednesday for our Game of Thrones, probably chapter 40, 41, 42, and maybe try to squeeze in 43, depending on what chapters they are. All right. So why don't we start off with our summary? And our summary, we usually take it either word for word or we break it down from Westeros.org. They have a great summary of every chapter from the books. And Jayne will be reading the first one.
Yes. And this is a sort of a summary of their summary. So I encourage you to go and read the full thing because I do shorten it a little bit. Okay. Bran is finally getting to ride outside the castle in the oversized saddle that Tyrion designed for him. He's excited, but he can tell something is bothering his brother. Robb notes that something is bothering the direwolves. He admits there was a raven the night before and the news isn't good. Uncle Benjen has still not been found. Their mother has taken Tyrion captive, and Ned's men were murdered in King's Landing by the Kingslayer. There's something about the Lannisters that Bran knows he ought to remember, but when he tries to think what it is, he becomes dizzy and his stomach clenches. Bran cannot understand why anyone would kill Jory, whom he remembers chasing him across the roofs of Winterfell. Robb continues solemnly that their father's leg was shattered in the fight, and he has not woken since. Robb promises Bran that he will not let this be forgotten. Theon advises Robb to call the banners. Bran and Theon disagree over the weight of Maester Luwin's counsel, but Robb states that he listens to everyone. Now the ride's over, and the brothers ride off to find the direwolves. Theon falls back to talk with the guardsmen. Bran recalls Jory bringing them there to fish with Jon and asks Robb, will they ever see Jon again? Robb reminds him that even Uncle Benjen came to visit. Then the wolves howl, and Robb rides off to get them.
That's it.
No.
Sorry. I was like, wait a minute. I think there's more. Sorry about that.
There's more. Okay, so now Bran is alone. He's surrounded by 4 ragged men and 2 women. He can tell they're neither foresters nor farmers and remembers what his father said about Night's Watch deserters being dangerous. They demand his silver and his horse. They don't believe he cannot dismount until a tall woman named Osha sees the straps. Asked if he's a cripple, Bran becomes angry and declares that he is Brandon Stark and that they had better let go of his horse or they will be dead. One says, only a Stark would threaten when a smarter man would beg. Osha then claims Mance Rayder will pay well for a kinsman of Benjen Stark, but the others don't want to go back because of the White Walkers. Suddenly, Robb calls out for them to surrender. Bran sees the body of an elk over the back of his horse. The outlaws only laugh and point out that it's Robb who's outnumbered and should surrender. Then the direwolves appear at Robb's whistle. Robb charges, riding down Osha, and the wolves slay the rest but one, Steve, who's pulled Bran from the saddle and is holding a knife to his throat. Steve tells Robb to drop his sword and call off the direwolves, which he does. Then commands Osha to kill the wolves, which she doesn't. She refuses to go anywhere near them. Steve orders Robb to kill the wolves, and Bran screams no, knowing that they will be defenseless without them. Suddenly, an arrow from Theon Greyjoy's bow bursts through Steve's chest, and the man collapses into the stream. The Stark guardsmen appear, and Osha throws down her spear and surrenders. Theon, ever smiling, is proud of his shot, but Robb scolds him for taking such a chance with Bran's life. Then Robb turns on the guardsmen, asking where they were. Theon admits he led them off to hunt a turkey. Robb is angrier than Bran has ever seen him. There you go.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
It's a lot.
There's so much more to unpack in this chapter, but we'll start with our guest. I'm not even going to call you a guest anymore, Tauriel. I'm just going to say, Tauriel, what do you think?
Very interesting. Very interesting. I mean, even no one realized, I don't even think that the boys realized how savage the wolves could be when they were protecting. Like they said, it was making even grown men throw up. to see the savagery that the wolves did, protecting Bran and Rob. And it was interesting that they were in the wolf's woods.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Now, if I'm correct, didn't Bran warg quickly into Summer for a moment? Because I remember it being explained like when Summer was ripping out the woman's blue worms or something like to that effect, if I remember it correctly. Like Bran, I thought for a moment saw it through Summer's eyes. I can't remember if that's correct or not.
Well, that I'm not sure on. I'd have to go back and
Yeah, me too.
really re-listen to all of that. But I know that Asher was, she knew something already.
Mm-hmm.
She already knew, and she was not going anywhere near what was happening. I mean, that was your first clue, kind of things were off, and maybe she knows something, but she's not saying anything to anyone. She just says no.
I could see that.
I took it as she just saw the wolves. I mean, these things are gigantic, and he's like, go kill them. She would have only had her spear to do it with. Right. These two gigantic wolves that have just torn through the rest of their crew. Right. It's like you would have to be completely insane. And she was not.
Plus, no one has seen the dire wolves in how many years?
Yeah.
200. Yeah. At least 200.
Well,
but that's south of the wall. Yeah.
So Usha might have seen them north of the wall.
Right. The one thing I could say about Osha, though, she seemed to be the only one that did not actually want to hurt them or battle. Like she fought Rob, but she did it in defense and she held her own. I mean, she's a spear wife. They're very this is the first instance of a female warrior we have in the books, an actual woman battling in the books so far. And I thought that was kind of interesting. She held her own with a castle trained lordling.
Yeah.
And she was smart. She was like, instead of killing him, let's Benjen Stark, because they all know who Benjen is. And two of them were Night's Watch brothers. Benjen Stark, we can ransom him, and they're like, no, we're not going back,
Right.
But I thought that was interesting.
Wasn't it Usha though that suggested that they cut Bran's cock off and stuff it in his mouth?
That was the other woman.
Yeah,
that's the one that Summer ate.
That says a lot about the wildlings, really.
Right.
That's messed up.
That's he's 8. He's 8 years old.
Don't say that to 8-year-olds, people.
Right.
It does reflect their culture. We're getting to see a little bit more of who they are and the different types of attitudes, among their people, because you do see very different personalities in this group. And I agree with you that Osha seemed the most, intellectual, I guess, of the group. She's thinking about how they can strategize here. And she wasn't afraid to go back. Despite the White Walkers, we know they know about them now at this point. That's what they're fleeing, but she's willing to take Bran and go back.
Right.
Yeah, she has more wits and survival instinct than the others, and I guess you'd call it street smarts in a way, even though it's in the wilderness. So. Yeah, kind of like that. She'll adapt to any situation easier than the others, maybe.
Right.
Especially if her survival is threatened.
Yeah. I also liked how this is Rob's first person he ever killed. And you see the difference between how Rob reacts and how Theon reacts.
Yeah.
Rob is more like the anger that comes out in him because he knows that Theon took a risk with his brother's life. I think was also a little bit from, I just killed somebody. My adrenaline's going, like, I don't think Robb took pleasure in killing anyone, where Theon, you could see he wants war. He wants to battle, he's that guy.
Yeah, he also, if you look back, he was also very quick to offer to kill the direwolf babies when they found
Yeah.
them. He's a bit of a
Right.
little sadist, kind of.
Right. Perfect way of putting it.
The other thing too he was eager to do here is to get Robb to go to war.
Yes.
It's like,
Yes.
He's sort of a bloodthirsty savage.
Well, and
Yeah, to throw the banners up. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right. Because of a couple, wildlings, and he just wants to go to war. But is that because he has no purpose? He's a ward, really a hostage, so is that the only thing he could think of, or is he bloodthirsty? Or is it a little bit of both?
What I think it is, it's very comparable to the real world, because he has been reading about battles and heroes and his own family and all that,
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he wants to experience it for himself. And when boys are young kids, if they watch action movies, they want to be Rambo, because nothing bad ever happens to Rambo,
right?
So if you're like Rambo, you'll kill everyone, and that's pretty much what Theon is too. He doesn't see the reality of it.
Right. And he's also 5 years older. He is truly a man in this world.
But you also see the difference between him and Robb, even in the ride over. One of the things I didn't mention, but that came up, was what he was talking about. He was very juvenile and talking about some girl and betting her and all this in front of Bran. And Robb's like, no, you shouldn't talk like that in front of my brother. Right. He's uncivil. And they're in they're also in a group of other, people from their household, other higher ranking individuals. And you don't carry yourself that way.
Right.
Right. He's a prince of his own house, and he's acting like a peasant.
Exactly. That's a good way of putting it, a peasant, and not even a peasant, like just a scoundrel.
Yeah. Uncivilized.
Talking about them riding over, I did find something that was kind of cool. Just how Bran is so observant. He sees how people are, bowing to Robb because he is right now the Lord of Winterfell, and Robb is giving that stoic nod of a lordling, and he sees him playing that part. He picks up on these things that an 8-year-old shouldn't be picking up on, but he does, and I think that's pretty interesting. Can you hear us, Tauriel?
Sorry, guys, I fell out there.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. I was going to ask you a question.
My internet is. My internet is being very unruly today.
Don't worry about it. We'll keep popping in and out if you have to. I wanted to ask you a question though. When Robb tells Bran about the death of Jory and the other guards, what did you see there? There's a part where Robb goes, "I wish you were older," and Bran says, "Well, I'm 8, and I'm next in line of Winterfell." But what do you think Robb was really saying there? Because I feel like I picked something up differently this time, where he was saying, "I wish you were older." Did you get anything from that?
Because I was going to say there's so many emotions going through Robb because of the news that they got that his mom has got Tyrion as a captive.
Right.
That the best people that they've grown up with, they've known, they've loved, have nurtured them and saw them to where they are dead now.
Right.
And I think he wanted comrade more than he wanted anything. He wished his brother was just a little bit older to maybe confide and talk to him, because if you look at Rob, he doesn't have a lot of people his age to be able to talk to. And
Right.
to look at an 8-year-old, you're not thinking,
Right.
I can't tell you what I'm shouldering right now. I can't explain to you the weight that I'm carrying right now. And he feels all the weight of being the Lord
Yes.
of Winterfell. And
Yep.
he's supposed to be taking care of his family now. And that was just thrust upon him because his father left. And that's a lot to shoulder in a very short amount of time.
Yes. It's perfect that I swear I wrote exactly pretty much what you just said there. I put down that I thought he just wished his brother was older because everyone else in his family that he could have turned to is gone right now. And the only person he has is Bran, that knows him as a family member, not just right now the Lord of Winterfell. That's very observant. I didn't catch that really until I read it this time. So I think that's a really neat.
He can't depend on Theon, who's that age, because he's actually never fit in. And I think Rob really saw that with this,
Right.
the bloodthirstiness coming out. He may have wanted to confide in him,
Right.
but seeing that just totally, there's no one.
I do see that though. We see this, this isn't really a spoiler, but we see something in Rob right now that you see later on in the books. He listens to everybody though. He will listen to you and then he makes his decisions. And you notice that about him. And I think he wishes his brother was that confident. And like you just said, not Theon, definitely not Theon. What was the other thing I wanted to ask Stig? I had something written down for him. So something I noticed, we hear Bran say it for the first time. There's some symbolism in this, and I always think of you, Stig, when I hear things. And there was two I noticed. There was when he told him a raven brought news, and we hear Bran for the first time say dark wings, dark words. Now, other people have said it, but for him to say that, it felt different. I guess we really can't go there. But oh man, I can't go to another one to remember later down the line. Okay, so another one to remember.
To be fair though, I think that's just Bran using the saying.
Right, the saying that other people have said.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then there's another one I noticed where we have Theon says, give her to the wolves. And it just reminds me of somebody else later down the line. But we'll talk about that when we get there.
Well, one thing that we do notice too with Bran is that he becomes dizzy when he tries to remember what he saw with the Lannisters.
Right.
So that's the first hint we get that something's happening there with his memory. And the other time he gets really dizzy is when the White Walkers are mentioned.
Oh, I didn't pick that up.
Nice catch.
Yeah, that's a really nice catch. I did not catch. I caught the first one. I didn't catch that second one.
Makes you wonder what that's about.
Yeah, it kind of does,
Maybe
doesn't it?
Maybe it's a head cold.
Yeah. I mean, he did just come out of a mini coma, right? He was in a coma there for a bit.
Yeah.
But he saw the others in his coma dream.
That's true.
So the image or memory he might have had out of that might be tied to the same thing, right?
Right.
That's true. And I still want to say that in this chapter, he warged into summer for a moment, and I want to say it was like I don't have my
if you're thinking about when he saw the flesh of something being eaten, I think that was a different scene.
Oh no, because it's something about blue worms coming out of the woman, like ripping at the blue worms.
I don't
You know
remember
what?
that from this one.
I'll
would be
look
the
that up.
Dutch.
Yeah, exactly. He was going after her belly. So I want to say if you have a book, it was around page 405, 406 that it was said. But
Picture an 8-year-old telling you, "I didn't do anything wrong. I was just taking her blue worms out."
yeah.
That would be disturbing as heck.
That'd be real disturbing, man. Oh man, how are you doing tonight, V-Star? Nancy, how are you? And the memes of destruction. How are you doing, my man? Hope all is well with you. Thank you for stopping in. Please like and at least just like. That's all I need right about now is a good like. I don't know why I'm off screen. I like to be on screen because I am vain. So, does anybody have anything else with this chapter?
I of course, I love to see the Starks with the wolves. And so when Rob came out of the woods and then did that signal, and then can you imagine these big dire wolves coming up behind him? Like that must have been terrifying.
I know.
And then he charged and they charged. I mean, that's awesome. That he also could communicate with them, apparently.
Without even knowing, though. Like, I mean, he whistles them so they know to come. But when he charges, they know to go. They know to go for it. And I thought that was pretty good.
And he also mentioned earlier, Bran was observing Rob being, very sort of sullen and nervous or just sort of off his game a little bit, upset maybe something was bothering him. But Rob picked it up in the wolves.
Oh yeah.
So it suggested maybe the wolves felt something too based on his energy.
Right.
Or maybe felt what was happening with the other wolves. We don't know. But I found that interesting.
Well, when you were reading the summary, there was a part right where the wolves howl. You said something right before that, and I meant to write it down, but what did you say right there? Can you reread that?
Let's see. So
nervous.
Yeah, so Rob reminds him that they were talking about
Uncle Benjen, right?
Uncle Benjen, yeah.
Coming to visit. Will you ever see, okay, that was it. Will we ever see John again? Well, Uncle Benjen comes to visit, but then the wolves howl.
Right.
Like they know something. I don't know. It's interesting,
weird.
Right?
Yeah.
It's interesting. Anytime the wolves howl, we've noticed before something is happening. So we have to keep an eye on what the wolves are doing because they connect to something more magical. I mean, connection, some type of thing with the kids that the kids might not even realize, but the wolves do.
They're not just ordinary dogs.
They are not dogs. They're wolves. And that is
I have a question, and it might be spoilerish. I'm not sure. But
all right.
When Bran dreamed about the others, and he dreamed about the land of always winter, and then he cried when he saw something.
Yes.
Has Bran ever thought about that since, or is it like he's forgotten it?
He doesn't bring it up since then.
So he's probably forgotten it.
Right. So like when he gets dizzy, that's because it might be something he's physically trying to, or his mind's trying to either comprehend or block out.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if he has mentioned that stuff later, because if he hasn't, that's part of his memory loss.
Yeah. Tauriel, you were going to say something, I think.
I was just going to agree with that he's blocking the things that are too horrendous for him, or he knows they're there in the back of his mind, but he doesn't want to acknowledge it.
Well, remember during his training, every time he tried to remember the three-eyed raven guy, would tell him, no, don't remember that.
Going a little far, aren't we?
I don't think so.
No, I don't either. It's so hard.
This was from when he was still in the bed.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so in
So,
the bed,
the three-eyed raven might not want him to remember that because he saw something he shouldn't,
Right.
or maybe what he saw was equally as traumatic as being shoved out the window,
Mm,
because he did cry when he saw that stuff.
true.
So it's something
True,
to
and he could.
keep in mind.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe he associates that with the trauma of that is like being pushed out the window. He associates that, so it's like, no, I can't go there.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
He does remember the raven though the second time, and that was part of the first,
Yeah.
fever dream kind of. But he suppressed the stuff about the others.
Or is it being suppressed?
No idea, but it's
Like-
something to absolutely keep in mind, right?
Right. It is definitely something to hold on to, because even when, I'll be honest, when I was reading that, I don't know about Tauriel. When you read that, did you think he was just having a fever dream or something more magical, or something more was going on in that?
Well, I always think there's something more when it should be just a dream. But I always read things into the smaller parts of what you're seeing, or when you're reading it, that it has a bigger, deeper meaning than what is coming across.
Right.
And here, there was no reason for him to start to feel faint. So
Right.
I definitely thought there was something happening that would be mentioned.
Right. I didn't catch the second one. I don't even know why I didn't. That's the bigger one to me. And, it's either it's something so traumatic that he saw while he was in his coma. You know what I mean? That it brings back something, or something suppressing that within him.
Yeah.
I guess we'll find out, right? That's kind of crazy. Oh, I don't know. Anybody else have anything on Bran? I want to make sure I look over my notes real
Let's
quick.
see. There was so much in that chapter.
Only that overall, through the story, the Bran chapters are the most interesting, to me at least.
Right. So I think it was Smooth Jam California says it's the most boring book one. And I thought the same thing my first few reads, but now I look back at it, and in book one, he's just talking about book one. He said, later on he has some good chapters, but it's the ones you got to read into the most. There's so much going on, that little things that you pick up and you're like, oh my God, does that mean something else? And that's the beauty of how George writes. It could be a rustling of the leaves. It could be something. And you got to like catch everything he's saying.
One more thing I noticed is that Rob came back with an elk.
I was going to bring that up. Thank you.
I don't know what that means.
Oh, I know what it means. It means
What?
it was trying to be amusing.
Amusing. That's horny. He also, I did like where he told them to send the heads back of the two Night's Watch to Castle Black.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, did they do that when Ned chopped off? They don't tell you that when the head rolls away. You know what I mean? Right. But that must be something they always do to prove.
So.
Oh, maybe. Well, Ned used the bigger sword and he had a hell of a swing, so maybe the head just rolled back.
All the way.
All the way to the wall.
4. But I that's one of those things, like he slips it in, and are we supposed to understand that as a kind of a thing that happens every time a deserter is caught by a Stark, that they return the head?
It would make sense, it's neat and tidy, they know, yeah, we caught the guy. You don't have to look anymore.
I also, oh god, knocking over things.
And if they got the wrong guy, Castle Black would know.
Right.
Because no, we've never seen this guy before.
Yeah,
Who is
who's this guy?
No, he's
Yeah,
not bad.
Who is this? Yeah.
Send it back. It's not the package we ordered.
Well, he had a black coat on. I know they do it in other places in this world. But there's also hangings, there's burnings of bodies, there's all different types of way of doling out justice. I find it interesting that in the North, they chop the head off to make sure it's separated from the body. And I wonder if that goes back to previous, times, the ancient times, the first long night that we learn about in history.
Yes.
I wonder if that has anything to do with it. So I that was something I picked up on that.
It
Go ahead.
could be true that in a lot of lore, that when your head is separated from your body, you wander endlessly.
Oh, that's interesting. See, in my mind, it was your body won't wander aimlessly, but that's the exact opposite.
Now in the show,
your spirit is not at rest because your body is not together.
Right.
In the show, they do show the body able to move without the head.
No.
So I wonder, I don't know.
I don't know. But that, that was one of my more
anyway.
Yeah. I enjoyed that chapter more this read through than I did the first 2 times I read it. And I don't know, it's because I always love doing this, and maybe it got me wanting to listen to it more, but it was definitely a more important. There are a couple foreshadowing things for later chapters in other books. So I really got to start like some type of Word doc so I can go back to these moments. But the Theon giver to the wolves thing was something that really caught my eye. And I didn't realize that the first 2 times.
It's like, dude, shut up. You don't know.
Right. Right.
Along this entire trip, Rob is just telling him, just stop.
Yeah. he has no class.
None.
Which
is here?
Actually disturbing given that he has just seen what the wolves do to people.
Right.
And he's willing to give her to the wolves.
Just what? That's
sport almost.
That is valid, but for sport. Exactly. That's a very good way of putting it.
Basically,
remember that
he's the kind of kid that would pluck the wings of flies and stuff, right? Hurt small animals, and he's not right in the head.
He is not right in the head. Hopefully he gets it together in the later books. That's all I hope. We'll see, though, I guess. So we're going to move on to our next chapter, which Stig will be reading a summary on. And this was Bran 5. Our next chapter is actually Tyrion 5, and that's chapter 38 in the book.
Yeah.
Whenever you're ready, Stig.
I wrote a little synopsis of it. Tyrion is in the Sky Cells, being bullied by Mord, the retarded jailer. He can't sleep due to the slanted open cells. So he's afraid he'll roll out of the cell if he falls asleep. And he's thinking back on what happened before. And he remembers Lysa Arryn accusing him of having killed Lord Arryn, in addition to having being accused of having sent the assassin to Winterfell to kill Bran. Tyrion gets snide with her. He's in a bad mood. And he gets warned by Lysa or rather he got warned by Lysa when he threatened them with Jaime. And Catelyn actually saved him from being thrown out the moon door by reminding her sister Lysa that Tyrion is actually Catelyn's prisoner, not Lysa's. Tyrion wonders in his cell which of his siblings sent the man to kill Bran. He also wonders if one of them killed Aaron. He considers the attempt on Bran to be a very clumsy attempt. Tyrion decides he has to free himself soon because he's getting weaker from the imprisonment, and Mord is still basically beating him and whatever. He manages to convince Mord to tell Lysa that he wishes to confess his crimes, and he promises Mord a lot of money. Sir Vardis fetches Tyrion, and Tyrion is taken to the High Hall. Tyrion is pleased to see Bronn and the singer Marillion, that they are present, because with a singer present, no matter what happens, it won't remain a secret, because the singer will tell the story, right? Tyrion confesses to all kinds of, depravity, but he refuses to confess to the attempted murder of Bran. Then, like women often do when they don't get what they want, they become unreasonable. They order Tyrion to be taken back to his cell. He questions their honor and reason. He's accused, he denies it, and then gets thrown in the cell. He doesn't see the logic in that. Then again, he is talking to women. He demands a trial of combat. The crowd laughs at him. Lysa names Sir Vardis her champion. Tyrion then realizes that he can name a champion too, and he names Jaime, but Lysa refuses because Jaime is hundreds of leagues away. Tyrion starts worrying that he might have made a mistake, until Bronn finally steps up and says he will be Tyrion's champion. There you go.
There you go. All right. She is back. Okay. So before we start on this one, I just want to, I kind of cut this out so people can see what the cells look like. So we had this picture last week. I put it as a background. Let's try that one more time. It's right here. If you look at, so where the castle is, the lower left-hand side of the screen, there are those like honeycomb looking, those are the cells right where the rock, it almost looks like part of the rock, but those are the cells. And then from Tyrion's view, because they're really only like 5 feet deep, and awesome. And some are angled so more than others. I don't know who the artist is. I don't mean to put somebody's stuff up without giving them props. So if you are the artist, please send me a message and I will totally change the description of this one. But yeah, and some of them are on just a small grade drop down. Some are more vertical than others. And most men just decide to let it go.
Yeah, just roll on down.
Roll on down.
Roll with it.
Yeah. So, Stig, what do you think?
Well, picture being in that cell when it's wintertime and stormy. It has to be a bit chilly.
Chilly. Holy cow.
From a design standpoint, it's a terrific cell. But it scares the crap out of whoever's in it. Right?
I think we should adopt those in the US.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. or the moon door.
Yeah. I think the moon door in the show was way cooler than the moon door in the book, but we'll get to that another chapter. Yeah, those cells they're meant to drive you insane. I mean,
and there's no escape except through the door.
Exactly.
Because you can't climb down there.
Nope, it's a steep cliff down. I mean, look at it. This is the one from A World of World of Ice and Fire. So this is it. You drop. There's no way to catch yourself.
You need to climb down and then under it.
Right.
You need to be upside down almost.
And it's not like you have sheets or anything.
Actually, you could climb all the way to the side, I suppose.
To the top.
Yeah, to the left and try to get out that way. But I'm guessing this rendition, like it's if you were closer, it would be still very, very dangerous.
Yeah, and if you're in the cell, you won't know what's to the left.
Right.
Right. Just trying to get out there, you're gonna fall. You'll slip and fall down.
Imagine just having a ladder to the left. They'll never know.
V-Star.
And it looks like
no, go ahead.
Even to the left that all of the cells are even. So if you wanted to swing out, there's nothing to grab to.
Right. You kind of have to like hope you're swinging and you fling yourself into the next cell. That's not going to work. I don't think so. And don't forget, Tyrion's also like under 4 feet or about 4 feet, somewhere in that realm. So that's a little tougher for him. Not shaming him for his height.
No, it's not his fault.
It's not his fault. It's the gods.
Yeah, but if it's raining, that's
should have given him a smaller cell, really.
Yeah, he could have been in a little box. So do you want to get in on any of this, Stig, before we start passing it around? What did you get from this chapter that you found interesting?
Well, it's a story progression chapter. There's not much mystery, except for Tyrion pondering who of his siblings had Bran attacked or whatever. That's his first suspects actually.
Yep.
His siblings, which would mean Jaime and Cersei.
Yep.
But this confirms what we all knew, that Tyrion had nothing to do with it. Again. So he's clearly not the guy behind him.
Right, because we're in his head. Why would he be lying to himself?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
If he had done it, he'd be cursing himself for hiring a bad assassin or something. But again, Tyrion uses his wits against Mord.
Yep.
Who is greedy. Who works. It's a lot of fun when he confesses his crimes to Lysa.
The show was better. That's the one thing I could say. I think there was more in the show. He said more things. And his acting is brilliant. So
he did something to the turtle soup. Good stuff.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I didn't know turtle soup was a cream soup, but okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, the interesting bit is that Bronn steps up,
right,
and is willing to face a knight. And that knight was actually the only one who didn't laugh at Tyrion when Tyrion wanted the trial by combat.
Right.
He didn't mock Tyrion at all. All the others did.
Right.
So possibly an okay guy.
Right.
But it sets up Bronn versus Ser Vardis.
Now, one thing I caught, I don't know if any of you guys caught this, and again, it was with the reread. Bronn waited to hear what knight was going to be named as Lysa's champion before he said, "I'll stand for the dwarf." So,
good point.
And and if you look back at any of the when Catelyn's getting helped out of the basket, it's this knight that helps her, and he's described as an old knight. I went back because I remembered hearing his name. And if you think about it, like if it was Colbray or one of the the Royces or something like that, would he have stand up for Tyrion? But when he found out it was an older knight, that's when he decided, I'll stand for this guy because he's a survivor. So the younger knights that are battle hardened or trained very well, if they were ones that were put up, do you think he would have said, I'll stand for Tyrion? Or what do you have thought about? You know what I mean? Like, I found that interesting. He waited to hear what knight was picked for Lysa.
I think you're spot on. Because that's what Bronn is. He's a self-serving sellsword.
Right.
I also made a note of, it was interesting that Lysa accused Tyrion of killing Lord Arryn as well. That was completely out of the blue. Something to make a note of as well for later. I'm not
Didn't
going
get
to say anything more about all that because that's
right,
a huge mystery thing
right.
that we'll learn more and more about during these Wednesdays.
Yep. How about you, Jane? What did you catch from this chapter?
Well, about the bronze situation, I wasn't really so sure about that. I mean, on the one hand, yes, he's a survivor and he probably would have jumped forward because this would have been an easier fight. On the other
Mhm.
hand, I always got the sense that we really don't know who Braun is. We don't know his background. And I do feel he was going to step forward no matter what.
Mm.
But if it were a younger, better knight, his fighting him and winning might have revealed a little bit more of his status than he wants them to know at this point.
His abilities or his status?
Both. I mean, if you
Oh,
saw him fight and you realize, oh, this guy is incredibly skilled,
right,
you're going to
right,
start to wonder, well, where was he trained?
right. How did he learn all of
How
this?
did he learn all of this? This
I
is
didn't
some
think of it that way.
random dude. Yeah, so I think he would have thought about it, but I think he was going to step forward either way.
Well, I mean, he knows that a Lannister always pays his debts.
Exactly. So it's going to be about the money for him, but how
Right,
much of himself did he want them to see at that point? I think
right,
would have been a consideration.
right. That's interesting. I didn't think of it that way. I like that. Tauriel, what about you?
The one thing that I noticed is that the older knight plays by.
Oh, we lost her. She was going to say plays by the rules. We'll
Yeah.
let her talk that part when she gets back. One thing I found interesting was how Liza was just falling into Tyrion's trap and Catelyn noticed it. Like you could see how Catelyn kept trying to rein it in because she understands that Tyrion is feeding Liza things to make her react. And I thought that was kind of interesting. There she is. Finish that thought you had. Oh, you there? All right. Well, I'll keep going when we can hear you. We'll let you jump in. But I thought that was interesting how Liza kept trying to I don't know, he was feeding Liza stuff to say, get reactions out of her. I think he always wanted to have a champion fight for him instead of them deciding.
Yeah.
So he was making sure she would like get riled up enough that she would accept it, not thinking why he would ever do that. Because if you were a smarter person, you would stop and think, wait a minute, why is he going this route? What does he have up his sleeve? And from Catelyn spending time with him, she realizes how intelligent he is, and how, cunning he is. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, it did serve that dual purpose. So at this point, Kat should be even more sure that she's wrong than she was when they were at the bottom of the mountain. But I think it also gave us, greater insight into how completely unhinged Liza is.
Oh my God.
We know now she's completely crazy.
When Catelyn realizes how intelligent Tyrion is, she should realize how dumb she is. But she doesn't, so.
Tauriel, are you there? No. She's having some internet problems. Another thing you brought up, Stig, was how Jaime and like how he thought about Jaime and Cersei and realized it couldn't have been them.
Yeah, because it was too clumsy.
It was way too clumsy. So he's actually giving them credit, but he doesn't give it to him in the nicest of ways, but he's giving them credit like this. It's way too clumsy.
Yeah.
So I thought that was
Tauriel.
Tauriel, can you hear me? I don't even, is that from Frozen? I don't know. I have two little girls, so I sometimes hear it. No, she's still, why don't you drop out one more time and try to come? Oh, she is coming in on another one. Holy cow. I'm so confused. There we go. Hello. Is there anybody out there? Aw. I have two of her backstage. Why don't I put you both on? Let's see which one's which. Who's the real Tauriel? Reveal yourself.
It's the Silent Sisters.
Oh, that's great. You know what you also get from this?
What?
You get that bit of Tyrion's pride. And how when the guard is making fun of him, he lashes out. And you never really see that from, it was him he lashed out, right? And you never see him do that with anybody else. He uses his wit or his humor.
Yeah.
And you could tell that, you know, he's grown up always being the little guy and always, you know, but because he's a Lannister, he was protected, but still he felt like he was less than. So anytime someone kind of goes that route, you see that he gets frazzled. I thought that was kind of good.
Well, he was unnerved this entire time, though, too. I mean, you began to see where he realizes that this could, in fact, be it. He could die now.
Right.
An insane way. But yeah, I think in that moment, too, you saw a little bit of the Lannister come out. He doesn't always adopt their arrogance, I guess. But you do see a little bit. I think that pride was connected to that Lannister side of himself that you finally see sort of come out.
Yeah, you're right. Darren, thank you for stopping in, brother. Palanuki, thank you for coming. It's a cage bushin, not juice. I don't know. Okay. I don't think that was French. Illustrations. There she is. Still not working. Oh boy.
Oh no.
Oh no. Well, if you can get back in, we'll keep trying. There she is. Ba-boom. Are you there?
I thought I heard a little sound.
Like a mouse.
Yeah, I tapped.
Blink twice if you can hear us. No? Oh, that sucks. Give it a second. Sometimes it takes a minute. Don't drop out. Just let it sit for a minute. Because when I have internet problems, it takes a while. And then sometimes it'll help if I go off. I've noticed that'll help too. Does anybody else have anything on this chapter? I think out of the three, this was the least amount of information dump, but that's the reason why I feel like there must be little nuggets I'm missing in it, because George does that. He'll give you like 2 full chapters of like things you need to know about and then slide something in that middle chapter. I don't know, but it was a good chapter. You see, you know, how smart Tyrion can be.
Yeah, it's story progression chapter and a little bit of character development, but there's not much else. Basically, it's what I like to call a road chapter.
Yeah,
It's just pushing the story forward rather than adding too much to it.
Right. How many chapters in this book? That's a good question.
I think it's 79.
79. Yeah, or 70, somewhere in the 70s, Mason. It's going to be a while. That's why I picked to do it this way, because we never know when. Okay, so I just want to put this out there. Gary from Nerdrotic. Wait a minute. Let me get on camera. If you're listening right now, Gary, which I know you sometimes do, that 2023 thing you said on your live stream today in response to my question about when the Winds of Winter might be coming out, that hurt, man. No way, 2023.
2023.
That's what he thinks.
No.
2023.
It's coming out no later than next year. Next spring.
Yeah, I actually saw that video when he did the math about how many chapters he thought he had written.
Mm-hmm.
He took the ones we have, gotten tidbits from, right?
Oh, right, from his not a blog. Yeah.
And plus the ones he said he had completed recently.
Right.
That doesn't mean he hasn't completed other chapters.
Right.
And don't forget, always with the end of books, he has chapters left over. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of the pre-release ones were chapters he already had done for
Oh,
Dance with Dragons.
he said he had chapters left over when he started book 6. He already had some chapters.
Right.
So, but what George did with that post about a week ago or whenever it was, he was just talking about what he had done lately in the last few weeks. He wasn't talking about what he's done all year. He could have finished 20 chapters this year. We don't know. He was just talking about what he did last week.
Right. That's true. Like he was talking about that. I mean, I could understand where Gary was trying to factor it in.
No.
But I still think I still think like from doing this, I am still like, I've been so much more lenient on George because I love his world and I just want him to finish the goddamn books, man. Oh Lord.
Hello, Tauriel.
Tauriel.
Hello.
Yay! I just heard her.
I don't know how long it's gonna last.
Okay. Do you have anything to say about this chapter, or do you want to talk about Ned's chapter before you fall out?
This is bad today. No, the only thing I was going to say about that was that when he was fighting the one knight is older and he plays by a different set of rules than the younger knights do. He was raised in the tradition of an honorable knight.
Right. Well, and also Bron's not a knight. Bron's a survivor. So
that we know of.
Right, that we know of. God, you really got me thinking about that now. But that we know of, Bron is not a knight, but we do know that Bron survives. And when Bron realizes he's wearing all that armor, you know, you got to fight a certain way when you can move quicker. So that's a very good pickup, Tauriel. I like that.
Yeah.
All right. I think we'll move on to Ned so you can hopefully be here when we do it. So I'll try to read. This is a long synopsis, so I'll try to do my best to read through it quick because I am not as good as my panelists who devote themselves to this. I did not break it down. Under the influence, and this is Ned 10, I believe. Ned was injured in the battle with Jaime Lannister, and now he is back at the the Hands Tower, and he's in bed under the milk of the poppy, the influence, which is pretty much like opiates. Ned dreams an old dream of the showdown at the Tower of Joy. In the dream, as it was in life, his friends ride with him: Howland Reed, Lord William Dustin, Ethan Glover, Martin Cassell, Theo Wool, and Sir Mark Riswell. Riswell's one to remember. They were 7 facing 3, but these 3 men were of Kingsguard and living legends: Lord Commander Sir Jorah Hightower, Sir Arthur Dane, the Sword of the Morning, and Sir Oswell Went. Ned had looked for them on the Trident and at the sack of King's Landing and at the siege of Storm's End, but found them guarding this tower near the Red Mountains of Dorne. In spite of Rhaegar's death, they refused to bend the knee. By the end, only Ned and Howland Reed remained alive. Ned is awoken from the dream in the midst of making a promise to his dying sister Lyanna after the battle. Vian Poole is calling, and this wakes Ned. He is informed that it has been 6 days, and King Robert has commanded that Ned attend him when he wakes. Ned replies that he is too weak, but that he would please to receive the king in his room. When Ned asks for his captain of the guard, remembering that Jory is dead. Alan appears and tells Ned that Jaime Lannister has left King's Landing. The extra guards have been put on, that his daughters have been with him every day, and that Jory, Hayward, and Will have been given to the Silent Sisters to be sent north to Winterfell. Ned remembers that Jory's father, Martin Cassell, who was one of his 7 from the Tower of Joy, was buried in the Dornish marshes with the others. That takes Ned back to his dream. He does not think think it's bodes well for him to dream that dream now. It is then that Poole announces the arrival of King Robert and Cersei. Ned does not think it bodes well that Cersei has come either. Ned orders that they sent in and that the others leave. So this is all kept secret. Robert asks if Ned knows what his wife has done. Ned states that Catelyn is blameless and it was on his behalf to arrest Tyrion. The king tells Ned is unhappy that the king's hand is supposed to keep the peace, but 7 men are dead. Cersei corrects this to 8 as a Lannister guardsman recently died of his wounds. Robert declares that he will not tolerate it and demands that Ned command Tyrion Lannister's release and make peace with Jaime. Ned angrily replies that 3 of his men were butchered in front of his eyes because Jaime wished to chastise him. Cersei leaps to Jaime's defense, accusing Ned and his men of attacking Jaime while returning drunk from a brothel. Ned's like, dude, Robert, come on. You know that's not me, and you could ask Littlefinger. Littlefinger just says they returned from a brothel. Ned angrily informs Robert that he was at the brothel visiting Robert's bastard daughter. When Robert criticizes the girl's choice of name, Ned just returns with his temper, saying, what do you expect from a 15-year-old girl, whore? And tells Robert that the girl's in love with him. Ned asks for Robert to leave to bring Jaime back to face justice. Robert tells him to leave it alone and make peace with Jaime. Ned declares that if that is Robert's notion of justice, he is pleased. He is no longer the hand. Cersei declares if any man had dared speak to a Targaryen that way, Robert cuts her off angrily, saying, do you mistake me for Aerys? Cersei keeps pressing it. And I think he slaps her there. She steps too far, however, and declares that Robert should be the one wearing a skirt. Robert goes purple with rage and he lashes out and blows to her face and knocks her to the floor. Cersei remarks that she will wear the bruises as a badge of honor and is escorted out by Miri and Trent. Robert, declares that Rhaegar won. Rhaegar has Lyanna and he has Cersei. Ned tells Robert that they need to talk, but Robert is sick of talking and tends to hunt on the morrow. Whatever Ned wants to talk about can wait till he gets back. When Ned reminds Robert that by then he will have departed for Winterfell as commanded, Robert throws the hand badge at him and forbids Ned to leave. Ned asks about Dany and is told that Robert told that he is done. Ned continues by asking why Robert wants him as hand. If he doesn't listen, Robert states that somebody has to run the kingdom. As he leaves, Robert swears that if Ned resigns again, he will pin the badge on Jaime Lannister. So I tried to hurry that one up. I think that was better than my usual. So I feel like that synopsis doesn't give the fever dream enough.
Right.
I think that's a lot of things go on in this chapter. But what do you guys think first? Jayne, what do you think about the fever dream? Anything that stood out to you?
Well, one of the things that you kind of have to question, or at least I do now, I guess at this point, is how accurate was his dream?
Right.
Because of conversations we've had in the past, I'm almost wondering if it was manipulated in some way.
Oh, the only thing that gets me is, and they state it almost exactly like, and it's said this way in the book a few times, in the dream as in life. So he remembers that in this dream as it was in life, 7 against 3. And I think he says that multiple times. I do remember that some of the sentences are kind of choppy, but I could see it being manipulated. What do you think, Stig?
Maybe. I also see the number 7 and the number 3 happen a lot.
Yeah.
In this story.
Yeah, 7 Kingsguard. The 3,
7 gods.
3 of his, yeah.
Yeah. Aegon and his 2 sister wives make 3.
And I think we know of 3 older gods.
Yes. 3 heads of the dragon.
Yeah, a lot of 3s and a lot of
7s.
and 3 is actually a Viking number, to be honest.
Jeez, it's Ragnarok. We all know that now. I mean, if you guys, if you have not watched our Ragnarok Winds of Winter,
Spoiler.
well, it is spoiler, but it's our spoiler stream. I might break them up to 2 different playlists. Just check it out.
This isn't.
Okay, this is not spoiler. You're right. I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself. Jayne, what else about the fever dream? Anything? I found a couple things I found interesting.
Mm.
Did anybody else notice Ned's 7 companions, people that his bannermen, people he's known his whole life, were like shadowy figures to him. He knew them, but couldn't see them really. But when he describes the 3 Kingsguard, it's like you could see them in your head. How he states, you know, the old grizzled, what do they call the bull, you know, commander of the Night's Watch, or not what Night's Watch, Kingsguard, and like very using their titles, explaining like the bat on Sir Wentz armor, like he could depict them perfectly, but his own men were kind of shadowy in a way.
Kind of. If you don't have photographs, would you remember friends you saw 15, 20 years ago clearly?
Right, but the enemies he'll remember even better.
Yeah, because that was a near-death experience, wasn't it?
Right, and 3 of the greatest.
Yeah, that would stick with you, wouldn't it?
And it was, you're right, and they are 3 legendary knights that they went up against.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure he was certain he was going to die.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like, why emphasize the fever part? Like you it's almost as if it's put in a particular context. Everything he's seeing that is inaccurate. And then I wonder, well, what parts
are accurate,
are being manipulated,
right?
And what parts aren't.
Right. What parts are, we'll put it this way, what parts are the fever dream, what parts are true history?
Right.
We'll put it that way.
Also, he's full of milk of the puppy.
Right. Yeah. He's feeling good.
Yeah, he's on heroin.
Yeah, pretty much. Now, I like how they describe it in the book. If you are a show watcher and saw this scene, like they talk about how Ned, when Sir Arthur Dane says, good fortunes for you, you know, now it begins.
Mm-hmm.
And Ned sadly replies, no, this is where it ends. And you could see like he does not, even in this dream, does not want this to happen. And he stresses like, I looked for you guys. Why are you guarding a tower when you let your prince leave and die? 3 of the best knights in the land, and your king gets sacked, and Storm's End fall, and you still will not throw down your swords, though.
Well, Rhaegar could have given him that order when they left. And when he left, and Arthur Dane was a knight through and through, right?
Right.
But so he'd follow orders because of honor and stuff.
Right.
So he'd probably stand there and defend that tower against an army if he had to.
But they know that's his sister.
Right. That's the part that's confusing. Why did it have to come to blows? Where you have 2 groups of men, and they know Ned Stark. They know of him by his honor is already known. His love for his family, like they know him from, you know, different events they've all been to. Like he is not an unknown person. So why would they not allow him? And if it was just his sister he's worried about, you know, like you would think, that's my sister. I mean her no harm. I feel
It doesn't make any sense.
it doesn't make any sense. So do we take this dream as a fever dream and we don't have the full truth because Ned is under the influence of drugs with an infection and a high fever? I think people have put
What if,
so much stock into this one
Right.
dream.
Here's
Our whole
a
understanding.
little thing though.
Mm.
It's probably dead wrong and it's probably far fetched, but and it's a bit, there was obviously a childbirth happening, right?
Hmm.
There was blood.
What if the baby or babies were stillborn and only death may pay for life?
Mm.
Sir Arthur and company paid for life.
So,
Because we don't know
maybe.
if there was a fight or anything. All we
Well,
know
a lot of
is-
people died.
Yeah, a lot of people died. But
That's all we know. And if
yeah.
it wasn't, I mean, the
We
way
don't
it's
have the
stated-
bodies.
right? We don't.
Yeah, because if Ned fought them,
Mhm.
he would remember that clearly too.
And right after this, he thinks of how Jory and his guys were given over to the Silent Sisters to be sent back north, which is the traditional thing to do. But yet Ned didn't send anybody back north, but built those like mausoleum thing. I forget what they call them, from the stones of the Tower of Joy. Took down the whole tower to build these little mounds of, to cover the men instead of bringing back their bodies.
Yeah, he was way further south though than King's Landing. But
right, you have to go through the whole Stormlands to get to this. I get that, but they boiled the
a couple of horses or something, and well, he actually went south, didn't he? First,
mm-hmm.
He went south first and then north.
Yeah, but they boiled the bones. They usually return the bones. They will, like Ned's bones are being returned. So yeah, like Ned is returning bones usually. The Silent Sisters will take care of Jory. The body won't be returning. It'll most likely be just the bones, and that's good enough for a family member.
That's what it all boils down to.
One thing, oh man, there was just something that popped in my head that was good too.
Even that conversation, I mean, where he says this is where it ends, I don't think that's what they said. I think that's what he knows.
Oh.
And he's just, his image in his head is saying it.
Right. Oh, that's interesting.
Because that is where it ended.
That's where it ended.
But that's not what he would have said in that moment.
But maybe like Sir Arthur Dane might have said that, the first part. But do you think? I know where you're going.
The first part was said. I think I think that whole thing is his own mind reflecting back on what happened. This was the beginning of something, and it was the end of something.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I just don't think that we're sure about what happened in the middle.
Well, I think I know what Jayne means, but I don't think I can say anything without spoiling.
I know it sucks.
Yeah, we can.
Has to be. It has to do with someone thinking something's about to begin, and they try to make it happen.
Right.
Okay. We'll talk backstage on that one. But one thing I found interesting was this, rereading it. Couple chapters prior to this, we learn about the Dothraki Blood Riders, that if the Khal falls in battle, they're supposed to stay alive only as long as to pay revenge to the person that killed their Khal, or if their Khal died, they're supposed to take their own lives. If this is almost like, if this dream is real, this is what they just did. Their last word from their prince, their king, was to guard this place with your life, and what they found out, he was dead. They were trying to, they were about to do a blood rider, blood of my blood. You know what? I'm going out in a blaze of glory. And I also think the Three Kings Guard wouldn't think they would have lost against just 7 men. These guys were legendary knights, and granted, we've talked about how they always think of the legendary past, the great 50s and 60s like we do, but, what was it real?
this would be like, yeah, the knights would be, MMA champions
Yes.
versus someone who's had a couple of, fights in a bar.
Mm-hmm.
It's a no contest thing.
Yes.
Ned is good with the sword and all that, but he's not no sword master or anything.
Right.
He's just a good warrior.
He's a warrior.
Yeah.
He's a warrior. He doesn't, rarely do Northmen fight in any of the games, the jousting, the swords. Like when they fight, to kill.
Yeah, basically, Ned is level 10 and the others are level 50.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I like what Smooth Jam's saying here, how in the past, the Knights Guards, the King's Guards were more honorable, but since Jaime did what he did, becoming the Kingslayer, and also Sir Barristan switching sides, you can't pass. He's an honorable man, but he did not protect his king. And then he started working for the guy who overthrew him. I mean, everything changed after that. Both of them doing that. So I also think about that. I don't know when I've read the history books, and I'm going to have to look closer they've been King's Guards for the same Targaryen line. So if they're, go from one king to the next, it's not the same as going from Targaryen to Baratheon. So it's just became a whole different world.
Yeah. And I think you hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah.
A lot of this depends on the king, and we see how Robert rules a country.
Right. We see how Robert just acts.
He could care less what his people are doing, and they're just doing whatever they want.
I mean, people were murdered. His best friend almost died, and he's just like, make peace, let go of Tyrion. It's all done.
Yeah.
And then Cersei, once again, thinking she should be the man, she hates being a woman.
But she's jealous. Well, never mind.
Yeah. Well, oh yeah. Okay. But we see just how far Robert's rage will take him. Like, was this the first time he ever slapped her? Probably not.
Oh, I doubt it.
Didn't he? She said something about this is how you honor your wife or something, and he says, "Shut up, or I'll honor you again."
Yeah, something like that.
It's not okay to laugh, but it was.
It's funny though, because I can't.
It was the line.
Yeah. It is funny. I'm sorry, because I imagine the actor who did Robert, and he's a funny guy. So like, I just, domestic violence is not okay though, people. This is just fantasy. Thank you.
I mean, but they hated each other anyway.
They hated each other.
She gave as good as she got in her own way.
Yep. And I like how his men like got his daughter. I haven't left your daughter's side. We have more guards around you. Like, if I was Ned, the first minute I could wobble, I'd wobble my ass out of King's Landing and leave that hand pin right there. But I think Ned's now too deep, right? Will he stay? Will he go?
He keeps trying to get through to him, and there's just no way.
Like, he wants
what is it going to take?
Talk to him.
Yeah.
He has the proof. He wants to talk to his friend, and his friend's like, no, I'm going hunting on the morrow.
And he's already told him he's coming back. You have to remember, after Robert already told him he would kill him if he came back.
Yeah, exactly.
So
this is a wish-washy king, man.
Yeah.
He goes by his rage, how he feels that day.
Yeah. If Robert hadn't left, and if he had stayed and listened, that would have changed the story entirely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, everything would have changed.
Yeah, like Time Prophet says, Ned is kind of like Sharp.
Right.
If you guys haven't watched the Sharp movies, go watch them.
I haven't.
14 movies with Sean Bean about the Napoleon War.
Oh, you've told me about that before. You said it's awesome.
Yeah, it ends at Waterloo.
Oh, cool. Miss Martin Mew's back. Hopefully we'll be able to get her in the next week or two. She is working hard. I won't tell her business, but she's working hard. Good for you. Oh, one of my rogue, entertainment people finally drop in for once. Hey, Final. Glad you know where my channel is, Mr. Big Time all of a sudden. Toxic Manflu says Robert was stuck on since he was in A Knight's Tale. What did you expect he would be as a king? It's such a horribly bad movie that anytime it comes on, I get stuck watching it.
Yeah.
I can't
But
stand
I hate it for Ned.
Yeah.
This whole situation because he just doesn't get it.
He
Robert
just
is
wants
not
to
a
be there for
king.
his
He's
friend.
not a friend anymore,
Right.
though.
Right. He's not the boy he grew up with.
Ned is more honorable than intelligent, actually.
Yeah.
He's a good man, but he's not. Oh, maybe he's too good a man.
I think that's what it is. I think he has too much trust in people. He doesn't understand that it's a pit of vipers. He does, but he doesn't understand it can happen to him.
Right.
I think that's what it is. I think he's a little cocky in a way. Like, I don't know what it is.
This is who he grew up with. I mean,
Yeah.
Robert is essentially his brother for all practical purposes. You just wouldn't expect so much to happen. But like you said, he should have, at this point, been packed up and ready to go. I mean, your child's wolf, the sigil of your family,
right,
been killed.
Right.
For no reason whatsoever.
For no reason.
Your friend let it happen.
Yep. And kind of just did it nonchalantly.
Yeah. Your daughter is overhearing people in the kingdom threatening your life.
Yep.
In the castle. What is
He's
it?
A freaking moron.
What is it going to take? Your kings, your friends.
Yep. Your guards are dead.
Wife's brother just slaughtered your guards.
Yep. Yeah, it's
your best friend, because this is the other thing. We just one of the things about Bran's chapter is we saw Jory mentioned multiple times,
right,
and how close he was to this child, which meant he was very close to this family. I mean, we saw
we
Ned
saw that
holding him,
yeah, exactly,
right, but we didn't really have the context fracture. Of it, right?
You know?
And now we're seeing how close he was to the children.
Mm-hmm.
So this is someone who was probably like a brother as well.
Yep.
And you're still here. You're still in King's Landing.
Yeah.
Why?
Why do you think you can get through to him? Now, is that it's like almost like his honor bound makes him stubborn. It's like, I have to get through to the king. And it's like, well, you're not getting through to the king. You're not going to get through to the king. Why don't you just cut your losses before you lose your kids or yourself, or, you know, your whole family goes down or something? Like, that's what it's setting up to be.
Mm-hmm.
You see it, and he's just like, I'll get to him when he comes back.
But the only reason to stay would be, at this point, the only thing he has been trying to do this entire time is save Robert's life. Right.
But at what, what cost to his family? To the people.
How many more of your people do you have to lose while you're trying to save this one?
Right. It's a tough one. It really is. I don't know.
It's just insane.
It really is. It's insane. These are some good chapters. I know that much. But I think we could maybe any last words on any of the 3 chapters, what they meant to you, anything like that?
No, it's just well, they're a bit up and down, aren't they? The first and the last are plot heavy,
right,
and mystery heavy. The one in the middle is basically a stretch of road that needs to be covered, I suppose.
Yeah. We're we're in the thick of it right now. I'm still shocked there's so many more chapters.
Yeah, this is where all of the stories starts to step up.
Mm-hmm. And where things start to come together.
Yeah, and shit is starting to hit the fan on many sides.
Yeah, multiple levels. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're still seeing the ripples of Kat's bad decision making.
Yeah, and book 2 is the same way. it just sets up for half a book, and then all the storylines starts to go haywire.
I like this. Ned is caught in a classic virtual loop that he doesn't have the brain to think his way out of. Leaning at the windmill. Yeah, it's Don Quixote.
Yeah.
It really, he's just he thinks he can think his way out of this, but again, I think you said it best, Jayne. He really thinks he could reach this friend, but at what cost? And he just doesn't seem to, like, his children are with him.
Right.
This is getting more and more violent as chapters go on.
And that's the thing I don't understand about not only his decision, but also, of course, Kat's. Your children are here. Like, your girls are here.
Right.
How do you not see that they are at risk? I don't understand.
It's the same with Robert, though, because he seems to close his eyes to worse and worse things. It's almost like a mirror image of Ned.
Right.
But at least we know he's a drunkard. I mean, Ned doesn't have an excuse.
Yeah.
It's his virtue.
Yeah, but like you said, he grew up with Robert, and they were best friends since childhood. So a lot of people would do whatever they can for a childhood friend.
Yeah, he is. Maybe Adam Price said it. Maybe he is playing in his head like he has time to reach Robert, but I don't know. And it was a big mistake to take his daughters with him to King's Landing. That was his wife's idea.
Yeah. Because, to be fair, Sansa had to go because marriage arrangements.
And that's another thing. A betrothal is, those are really hard to break. You need the high septon to break one of those. So if Ned leaves with his daughter, there could be war between, by honor's stake, the North and the Baratheons. And that would be the whole rest of the Seven Kingdoms.
But you remember we talked about the potential war between those two. You know, it wouldn't just be the North. He would have the Riverlands. He would have the Vale. Who knows, who else might side with him? Probably Dorne.
Well, luckily Catelyn went back to the North, told Robb what to do, and they're prepared, right?
Yeah.
God, I can't stand her.
Oh,
they're both morons. She's way more of a moron, but Samwise. No, Samwise was much braver, and he had his reason to be the one pushing along. You wanted Samwise to keep moving. He's the reason why Frodo gets all the credit. But that's another story altogether when we get finally done with these books in 2025. And we'll go into the Lord of the Rings after that.
And Samwise was following someone who was trying to do the right thing.
Right.
Robert is not.
Robert is far from trying to do the right thing. Robert, and I love Stig makes me always think about how, Robert is maybe all the things he's been through with the wars and everything, has PTSD and this and that. But in this time, there's no way of helping that. And the only way to help it is to talk through it. And Robert's never going to talk through it. Robert wants to shut all that out, go hunt, go have sex, go drink, so what does he tell Ned here? I'm going hunting on the morrow. We'll talk when I get back. Like, I don't want to deal with it. I'm out.
Well, Robert went to war for Lyanna.
Right.
Basically, and he didn't get her. He got the throne. He didn't even want the throne, I think. He just sat down on it.
Yeah, Lyanna was one of the reasons. I think more or less they went to war because it was Aerys who wanted their heads. And Jon Arryn was the first to raise the banner and say, no, I am going, no, we're fighting you then. And that's when, the more romanticized thing is he went to war for his love, Lyanna, from the evil Rhaegar, and he lost his beloved. But the truth is, Ares called for Ned and Robert's head, told John Arryn to send them to King's Landing, and John Arryn said, hell no, we're going to war. And that's how it really started. And I love that the book wants you to think it's because of the love, but it really was, they were going to be killed if they didn't go to war.
Yeah. And they'd already killed 2 Starks. So,
right. Starks don't do too well, they say, down in the South. I don't know. We shall see. But let's wrap it up. I have to be up at 2:30 a.m. So early day of work. So we will call it a night. Let's do our outros. Jayne, please. Thank you for coming, and let them know where they can find you.
Thanks for having me. You can find me here on YouTube, where I post weekly movie and television reviews every Sunday at 6 Central, as well as some occasional pop culture news and commentary. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram at Jayne Theory.
You got that shit down. Thank you, Jayne, as always. And my good friend Stig, let them know your little spiel.
What? I don't know.
Just a guy.
Just show up on channels and talk about interesting stuff.
Yes.
That's it.
Well, it's good to have you on this channel, man. Love talking to you about this stuff. Well, we're going to close it there. I want to thank everyone who got me to 800 subs. It's a cool honor. Been doing this for about 10 months. I thought I was hoping for 100 in the first year. So it's pretty cool. I was shooting for 1,000, but I thought I'd get 100. So I'm having more fun every day since we started doing this though. So I'm glad we're doing this. And, if you haven't yet, just and thank you for the support, everybody in the chat. McKinney 90, Brutal Morningwood, The Time Prophet, Toxic Man Flu, who else? Miss Martin Muse, Final Dust Star, Lady Tauriel, thank you for coming. I'm sorry your internet didn't work, but we'll have you on next week. We had Tina in the house, Mason stopped by, Adam Price, Deviant Porg, who is Palanuki, our good buddy Shellback. He has a channel. Please check out Shellback. His link is in the chat. Who else do we have? Am I missing anybody? Orville Nation, V-Star, Smooth, Jam, California. Darren, like my father before me. And I hope I didn't miss anybody because there's a lot of names. I'm appreciative of every single one of you guys. The Memes of Destruction. And that's as far back as it's letting me go. So everybody have a great night. And remember, freedom is not free.
Good night.